Well, welcome. Wow, we have a pretty nice turnout today. We're so incredibly excited to have everyone with us this evening. I want to welcome you all to the We Empower Women show. That's something that we have been working on for quite some time, really coming to bring you information that we think will help you on this journey. We know that with COVID-19, we wanted to just be able to bring light to the challenges that we are, tend to experience. And so with that, we wanted to launch our first series, which is our self-love series. We had our first session about two or 3 weeks ago with Vernon Ware, who is a licensed counselor. And he talked to us about the importance of loving yourself and the relationship that you have with yourself. And tonight, very shortly, we're going to have a pretty intimate conversation with Dr. Linda Singh, who is going to blow you away with just all that she's done in her career and how she, in fact, has prepared for those breakthrough moments. So tonight is about you. It is about finding, that space for you all in which you can just release and let go. All the while receiving information that we think is going to be incredibly invaluable to you. I did want to just thank so many of you. I know that quite a few are here in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. However, we have folks from Michigan. Aquanetta, thanks so much for joining us and being our first call person to join the call. We also have, as we mentioned, Alabama and some other states. So we're really excited everyone could join it. Oh, in Hawaii, and I also see California on the call. So thank you all so much for being a part of tonight's call. So one of the first things we wanted to start with is kind of picking up from where we were and the conversation that we had. Just sort of recapping, and there was homework that we all had, but some of what we learned during the first session was really the importance of loving ourselves and not depending on others for our happiness. We also learned about surrounding yourself with people who lift you and who don't deplete you, making sure that you're surrounding yourself in that way. We learned that you are wonderfully and beautifully made. Every single one of us, there is absolutely no one like us. We have an incredible thumbprint that no one absolutely has. We also learned about the importance of knowing when and how we need to fill ourselves back up. As women and as professionals, as moms or what have you, we tend to just expend ourselves, right? We just pour out of our tanks on a constant basis. And so we needed to know how to fill ourselves back up, and we talked about that quite a bit. And then finally, you all had homework. And that homework was that you needed to develop your I am statements. We asked for you to have at least 30 of those I am statements. And we also asked for you to also discuss the things that write down the things that you like to do. So I will take one volunteer if we have that is open to sharing your maybe 3 to 5 of your I am statements. We'll take that now. Take yourself off mute.
I will go. This is Tiffany.
Okay.
I started doing I ams with my daughter and a couple of other young ladies, my niece and another little girl, and it's been very powerful. And so just top of some of the 5 that we've been saying is I am confident, I am powerful, I am strong, I am in control of my thoughts and behaviors, and I am beautiful.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. All righty. If you all have not created your statements, you've got to make sure you're doing that, creating your I am statements. So with that said, and I think last time I did it and I mentioned it in passing, but I'm always so encouraged when I see folks that are here that are just doing a lot of work around healing. And Adrienne Banfield, thank you. What do we call you? Gammy. from the Red Table Talk is on the call as well, doing fantastic work always. So thanks for joining us again tonight, Adrienne. Okay. So with that said, I want to share with you a little bit about Linda. Dr. Linda Singh, personal friend of mine. She's the CEO of Kaleidoscope Effect LLC. She's a leader in residence at Towson University. With over 30 years of leadership, consulting, and systems integration experience, having served in various senior executive level positions, Dr. Linda Singh offers a blend of public and private sector experience that spans healthcare, defense, state, and local government. As the founder and CEO of Kaleidoscope, providing leadership and management consulting as well as strategic advisory services for a variety of public and private sector clients. Previously, Dr. Singh was the interim executive director and CEO of TEDCO, focused on investing and helping to grow early stage technology and life sciences companies to fuel economic development and growth. Prior to that, she served as a major general in the Maryland National Guard, dedicating more than 38 years of service. As the adjutant general and a cabinet secretary, she was responsible for the Maryland Military Department. And as part of her military role, she worked with senior level officials at ministerial and ambassador levels throughout the country. Dr. Singh retired as well from Accenture in 2016. She was the managing director of Health and Public Service North America Operating Unit, where she served for 21 years. She personally mentors coaches and speaks on leadership, diversity, adversity, career transition, and issues that plague women and veterans in the workplace. She holds a bachelor's degree in business, a master's of business administration, a master's of strategic studies, and a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. She is the author of Moments of Choice, My Path to Leadership, and her newly released book, What's in Your Box, which actually we will be able to share with you tonight where you can get that book. Dr. Singh is a certified project management professional certified coach. I don't like this resume and this Gallup strengths coach and John Maxwell certified trainer and speaker. She has received numerous awards. Among them are the 2013 Diversity MBA Top 100 Under 50 Diverse Emerging Leaders, the Network Journal 25 Influential Black Women in Business Award in 2014, and recipient of the Ellis Island Medal of Honor in 2015. She was also inducted into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame in March 2015. And she was also featured on the Today Show for her history-making leadership team and named as one of InStyle's Badass 50 in July 2019. Ladies, I share with you Dr. Linda Singh. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Thanks so much for joining us.
You were supposed to shorten that.
Oh no, I know. I tried. I think I took like one line off of it, but every line I kept reading. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't stop. Well, we are thrilled that you are with us tonight. Tonight is a conversation that we wanted to have with you about preparing for your breakthrough moment. And that's why I think that the background and the bio was so important, because it sounds like you've had a lot of breakthrough moments. Would you agree?
I would agree. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And so with that said, I guess, one of the questions I would have, and let me just say before we get started, ladies, one of the things that we do for this session, because we can go on and on and on, is we utilize the chat for any questions or comments that you have. So please make sure that you're going into the chat. We have some links that we want to make sure you're joining our mailing list, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel, so that we can continue to bring more information like this to you. So with that said, Dr. Singh, if you can talk to us about breakthrough moments, your thoughts around it. Some people may not know exactly what that means, but you seem to have prepared yourself for a good part of your life for those moments that we just shared on your bio. Just talk to us in general about that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to first say, Vernon's session, I felt like was a great, like if anyone missed it, if you're able, and I'm not sure if it was recorded, that you can go back and look at it, but it really is kind of the foundational items that you need to start with in terms of creating that breakthrough moment. And a breakthrough moment, it's not like this humongous, I think what most of us think is you can't have a breakthrough moment unless it's just huge big thing, right? Where you're going to accomplish this, this really big goal, or you're going to break through, this really big barrier. Your breakthrough moments really should be all of those small things. Like, you need to celebrate the small things that lead to the big things. Because what we find is that if you wait until you hit those really big moments, you're going to be tired, you're going to be burnt out, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be upset. And then a lot of times we turn around and don't even give ourselves the opportunity to go forward for those big moments. And so that breakthrough moment is doing all of the small things that you need to do to where you're going to now come out with, okay, it's a new me. I've got a new chapter. And I never say that it's an ending. It's always a new chapter. So I'm going to start a new chapter. A book has many chapters, and your life has many chapters. And if you create, each one of those, or take each one of those chapters as a breakthrough moment, you're 9 times out of 10 are going to be much more successful, because you're going to be much more motivated, because you won't be tired of just waiting for that big thing to actually occur. And so that's what I mean by, creating that breakthrough moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think one of the moments, I think a lot of us, I will say that, Dr. Singh is the first woman, the first African-American woman to lead Maryland's National Guard. So you have firsts, and you are clearly, you have clearly paved the way. We didn't talk about this in kind of our earlier, but if you can talk to us a little bit about those folks that are sitting in position now, right? That, the Today Show had you on for the very vision that you had. Talk to us a little bit about those individuals that are in position now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think I want to make sure that I kind of say this, because I think sometimes we're all in that space. So, earlier in my career, thinking about pulling women up, right, and pulling them into position just wasn't one of those things. I mean, we were spending much more time trying to get ourselves in position. I'm like, I can't pull somebody else if I can't even, get to the table. And so about midway through my career, I really started looking at it and saying, what am I doing to help other women? I mean, I'm not doing enough to help other women. And that became very apparent to me when I was at Accenture, where I started participating in women's groups. And I started realizing that I don't want to be one of those. And so that really caused me to shift my perspective. And I will tell you that one of the young ladies who's in lead right now, she's still in her position in the Guard, which is Brigadier General Janine Burkhead. She followed when I was in company command. They told me, oh, you did a great job. I rebuilt the company. And they go, we now want you to turn it over to her. I'm like, I don't want to turn it over to her. And so what ended up happening is I could not shake her. Let me just tell you, I tried to get away from her. I couldn't get away from her. She's like, nope, I'm following you wherever you go. And, it's finally, you just have to realize that if people are looking up to you and they need that assistance being pulled along, I used to think of it as well, why do I want to pull you along when, I'm trying to, really work on getting mine. And what ended up happening is that I became much more richer. I became a better leader by pulling them along and looking for those women that had the capability that somebody else may not be giving them the chance. And so I also started looking at the fact that I was promoting men all the time. So when I got the opportunity the last 2 years, so in 2018 is when I started seeing things align where I've got these talented women that are going to be able to compete for my top 3 positions. We weren't really sure that one of them was going to end up being a female, but we had 2 of them, and we were just like, these are the next ones. And so when I got 2 of them in place, and the governor had to sign off and nominate the 2 assistant adjutant generals, because he gets to select, he was happy that we were selecting women. So it was a woman on the Air Guard side, and she became the first female to lead the Air National Guard. And actually she became the first female, or maybe the second female, to be the assistant adjutant general on the Air Guard side. And then Janine became the second on the Army side, because I was the first on the Army side. And then when that 3rd position, when we seen that 3rd position was going to fall into place and it was another female, I actually went to the governor and I said, sir, you need to understand what's getting ready to happen. I said, I did not engineer this. These are talented. They are exceptionally qualified. And we're going to have to like talk ourselves out of not doing this, because they are the right ones for the position. And you have no idea, the diversity officer at a very senior level, at the national level, I had to have a conversation with, because his comment was, well, I get it. He says, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's going to make you a target. And I go, you tell me why I shouldn't do this. I mean, that to me is the defining moment. And, you know, creating that, so me knowing that I'm going to retire, right? So what are they going to do? I'm going to retire. So my thing is, why not create that breakthrough moment and prop them up for all the time that I am there? And so now when I look at these women, 2 of them are still in place. One has gone to the National Guard Bureau, and she's working at a much more senior level. And so it was me kind of propping them up. And I will tell you, they did not want to do the interview. They didn't want to do the interview with the Today Show. I was the one that pushed to do the interview, because my thing was, I had a seat at the table so that I can allow their voices now to be heard. And it really helped to put them on the map. And yes, it made them a little bit of a target, right? So we're still kind of fighting a couple of things today, but it did help to pull them up and put them on the map. And we have to do that for one another.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I think we're hearing in all of this that we all need to make sure that we're cognizant and mindful in creating opportunities for the next generation of women that are coming through as well, that we need to make sure we're lifting and climbing and leaving those doors open. That's absolutely fantastic. The Baltimore City, during our unrest a few years ago, early stages of a lot of what we're seeing with George Floyd and what have you, there was the death of Freddie Gray. And Freddie Gray was really Baltimore's, I would say, you know, where our city really, in many ways, you know, erupted. I mean, we had protests, we had fires, we had, you know, lots of things going on. And you were there. The Guard was yours. And you led and kept them, you know, in that storm. Would you consider that a breakthrough moment?
Oh, that was like a breakdown moment.
Breakdown?
It was a breakdown moment, even for me, right? Because you see yourself. It definitely was a breakthrough moment for me in a number of things. Like, I had been preparing for us to be able to respond to a civil disturbance. Never thought it was going to happen. And when you've seen stuff going on in Flint, Michigan, that makes you kind of wake up and pay attention, right? So we definitely were already paying attention to that. And I had just been in a senior leadership course led by the Guard in Harvard University 3 weeks prior that was on crisis leadership. And so we were talking to folks from Flint, Michigan. We were talking from folks of, you know, what happened during 9/11 and how do you handle those situations when the Guard is called upon to respond. So it was so fresh in my mind. But what was also fresh in my mind, that even though I look at Flint and you look at, some of the other things that happen, you can't look at that and say, this is another Flint. This was Baltimore. And so the most important thing for me was, if our folks are going to go on the street, I don't want them to embarrass me. So I talked to every group that went out, and I kind of said, you are an extension of me, and do not do anything to embarrass this brand that we wear. This is our home. This is not, a far off place that we're going into where, anything is game. And in actuality, not anything is in game, because you can actually get yourself in a lot of trouble if you do really crazy things. And so I had a lot of confidence that my folks were going to conduct themselves in a manner that would, would make us proud. I mean, they were taking this very seriously. And so for me, it was a breakout moment, because it put me front and center when I had no idea I was front and center. And I know you're saying, how could you not know? I mean, I was doing interviews. The interviews were on CNN. My mind was so focused on what I was doing that when someone walked up to me in the grocery store, I was actually stopped just to get something to eat and drink, and stopped at a grocery store, and I was still in uniform, and people were following me in the grocery store. That was a little weird. That's when you realize, oh my God, maybe I should be a little bit more careful. But I mean, it wasn't like it was bad, but that's when where someone walks up to you and they hug you, they pray with you, that you've created a moment for someone else. And I think, I learned a lot through that situation. I learned a lot about myself, the level of compassion, the level of caring, and I allowed that to show through every single day. So when I was on the street, before I would even say anything to my service members, I went to the police officers and asked them how they were doing, because I know that they felt like they were all alone. And that's a horrible feeling, to have it where you feel like you're all alone. And so trying to give them that pep talk. So I would say that was a breakout moment in many ways. It was a bad situation that turned out to be, I hate to say good, but it really brought us to the table to have many different conversations. And I am still to this day very tied to Baltimore.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, Dr. Singh, we have people at many different places along their journey. Some may not be at a stage in which they're ready for the breakthrough. Some are, you seem to have been pretty laser focused in your pursuits, although it also sounds that you might have just been prepared for the opportunity when it came. So it seems like a mix of the two. But one, if you can address, how can, the individuals on this call really create that breakthrough moment when they may not be, necessarily ready? How can you create that breakthrough moment?
Well, so first off, women in particular have this habit of second guessing themselves.
Yes.
Right. And we have got to check every single box before we're willing to step forward and say, this opportunity is for me. So we need to stop doing that. Right.
Can we ask a question, Linda, on the call? Let's get to the audience reaction. How many of you on this call second guess yourself? You can wave your hand, or what are the little features in Zoom you can do? Yeah, right. We second guess ourselves. Yes, thumbs up. I see Lataria, Desiree, absolutely. Kelly, Hodge. Hey, Kelly, we second guess ourselves. Yes, Aquanetta. So we second guess ourselves. Okay, Linda, go ahead.
And we talk ourselves out of going forth for that opportunity. We say, well, they need 10 things and we only have 3. And what's interesting is that if we were to take a page out of the guy's book, the guys say, well, I've got 3 of those things. I can do that job, right? Or I can step forth in that opportunity. So we need to be a little bit more willing to step out and maybe even step on the ledge a little bit, to take just that chance. Because because by the time you step out and you step into something new, it is only new on that day and that moment. Once you've been in it 8 hours, it's no longer new.
That's true.
Right? It's no longer new. So step out there and give yourself, allow yourself the opportunity to step into you. And I think that's what's happened, even for me, right? Is I'm seeing things out there and I am no longer saying, I can't do that. I look at that and I go, well, I can do that. And if I don't have all the things, I am doing my research and figuring out what do I need to add to my kit bag, step out there and take a little bit of risk. And we don't do it enough. And that to me is the first thing. The second thing, you need to look at your values and your beliefs. Look at the baggage that you've brought along with you. And we have to challenge ourselves to say, if it is not serving us well, if we don't think it's going to serve us well going forward, then you need to throw it out. You do not have to keep it. You do not have to keep beliefs that you've grown up with that are causing you all kinds of turbulence. Get rid of it. Change it. And, if we have to be bold enough to do that. And because if we don't, then that comes out in our actions and behaviors. And it makes us kind of out of alignment with what our intentions really are. And so, the way that I look at it almost on a scale is you have to look at, you have your values and your beliefs with your actions and behaviors need to be in alignment with your intentions. And if those things aren't in alignment, and it doesn't mean perfectly, straight up and down, but they have to be in alignment in order for you to get this forward motion and before you're open to receive what's going to come.
That's excellent. Excellent. I hope we're taking notes. That was really very, very good. Talk to us a little bit about risks that you've taken, and when did you know that it was the risk to take?
Oh my gosh, when have I not? Well, so the first risk was leaving Accenture, right? I was working a large consulting job. And when I say a large consulting job, I was working a $3.6 billion account. That's not small. Let's just say that my bonuses is more than what I make today.
Right.
And so when you think about taking that level of risk, and there's reasons why, and if you don't know the story, the opportunity to lead the National Guard within a state is a big deal. And working for the governor, it's a huge deal. But it was important for me to be able to now round out that career that I had with the military. It was the perfect culminating really position for me when I think about it. And so that was a huge risk because you don't know how that's going to necessarily pay off. The governor could have fired me at any given day. I could have gotten fired 91 days in at Baltimore. And actually, I thought I was going to that first night. So I thought I was going to get fired. And so that was a huge risk. And you have to look at, so if you're going to take that risk, then what does it mean, longer term? And for me, it was more about really giving more service to an organization that I cared so deeply about, because they took me off the streets at age 17. And what better way for me to repay that kind of service was to actually lead the organization and to give it, what I would consider to be, my kind of last go round. And so I've been taking risk every time I turn around. Stepping out of that now and retiring and starting my own business, that's huge. It's hugely risky, right? And Latara and I talk all the time about, my plans and, how things are moving. Things move slow. I'm going after federal contracts. That moves incredibly slow. So, it is risky, but if it is worth having, if it is worth, reaching out, I think it's worth taking the risk. You just have to figure out how do you calculate that. And, I always have to tell myself that, God's only going to put on you what you can stand, right? And so when I'm looking at this, I have to be open to listen, to know when is something, when is God speaking to me that I need to make that next move?
Mm, mm.
And, you know, it's not like God, like you hear a voice, but you do hear a voice. And if you're not listening, then that risk may seem too daunting. But if you're listening, you know whether or not it's the right risk to take. You know if it's going to pay off.
Okay, don't leave me, because that part is what so many people miss, right? So many people miss that pull that you have, right? And the reality is, in some way, we've experienced the pull, but you don't connect to it. Remember what it was, and then the next time the opportunity comes, you don't connect to it again. Whereas you're at a point now where if you get that pull, you're like, oh no, this is something, right, that I'm not going to ignore.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. It is. And, you know, it's a little weird because sometimes I start seeing signs. And when I say I start seeing signs, it's like, you know, you get something in your mind and you see it everywhere. And then, you know, if I don't do it now, then when will that time be? It's going to bypass me. And then I'll be setting, you know, I don't know, 5 years down the road and going, saying, I wish I would have done that. Right. So you really have to kind of be open to receive, you know, what could be happening around you. And I often tell folks, you know, don't stand too close to the door that you wish would open, that you don't see the other 10 that are open if you just take one step back.
Yeah. And I think the whole conversation around living your life with no regrets, if there was no better example of that, is what we've just seen in the loss of Chadwick Boseman, right? And he lived his life, and he gave every ounce of himself to his craft. And what he had said is he didn't want to leave with any bit of talent that God had given me that he didn't utilize. And so I want everyone on the call to really hear that, because I know that many of us, I talk to a lot of people constantly. You're in transition. You're trying to figure some things out. You're trying to understand, you know, what it is that is, what that silent pull is inside of you, right? And I think when you start experiencing that, and I've experienced this personally, that's why I know exactly what you're talking about. That's why people think I'm like I got 27 hours in a day because I'm doing so many different things, but I feel that pull. And for me personally, I sit still when I feel that pull. Talk to us about when you feel that pull, where are you and what do you do to really get in tune with whatever is pulling you?
Yeah. And wow. That's like, it's great because sometimes, I mean, I could be literally anywhere, right? I could be sleeping and something hits me and that's the end of my sleep, right? Because then I'm usually like awake and I'm like, okay, I got to go in the office, right? I know that sometimes I think my husband thinks I'm a little crazy because I'm like in here and I'm like, I got to get this down, right? I got to get it down before I forget it. Because I am getting at the age where sometimes I forget more than what I remember. But, you know, sometimes I have to sit with it. And I try to contemplate, so what does it mean? And if it looks like this, you know, well, then where am I going to take it? How do I manifest it into a reality? And I mean, it's just like, you know, the book that I just published, right? That came out of, it came out of an idea that started at a white elephant gift exchange party. Literally, that's where the idea came from. And then it just kept coming up. And then that whole trip, you know, we were in Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Estonia, and we were on the road and I started talking about it. And then I just kept going and going and going. And then, you know, I was out and around the countryside and I started using it as examples because it made so much sense. And then I said, I've got to write it in a book, and it's got to be something that is going to help someone find their passion. How do I help them to understand they have to pay themselves to get what they want? And so how do you pay yourself? And so that was an idea And I carried it all the way through. And yeah, it's later than what I wanted because so many things happened. So I really wanted this to come out December of last year. Well, guess what? Somebody else says to me, it was not meant to come out December of last year. It was meant to come out this year
Right now.
at this time while we're in the middle of this pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Talk to us about your book. You have it. You have a copy there?
I don't.
Okay.
being that it just got finished and it just got up on the site, so I had no idea. So that's another one of those things. I thought it was going to be another couple of weeks before it was available, and then I so happened I was going to look at something for another event that I'm doing later in the month, and Archway Publishing is the organization who is doing the publishing, and they already have it up in their bookstore. So I guess they get dibs over Amazon and everybody else. So they've already got it up in their bookstore, and we haven't even done the announcement or anything. So I just started pushing it out, right? Because I was just so happy yesterday. But the book is called What's in Your Box? Designing the Life You Want. And the overall concept is really about the box theory, right? And so the box theory is thinking about, well, what is it that you put into your box? And how are you thinking about the box more of I hate to say a hypothetical, right? But it's about not having the box be a physical limitation. So oftentimes you hear us talk about, people are putting me in the box, they're boxing me in, they're doing this to me, right? They're not allowing me to get outside of the four walls. And so I wanted to actually transform what you're thinking about in terms of when you see a box. We live in boxes. We, store our clothes. We store memories in boxes, but yet we always see them as something very negative. And what hit me that day in Bosnia, when I got this little wooden box, and in the box, and so the person who got it before me, because I actually got something else and I didn't like it, and I was like, please let somebody steal my gift so I can take that box. And so someone stole my gift. There again, you put it out to the universe, right? And I took that box, and they were very glad to have the general have the box. It's funny. And in the box, and so when the young lady got it, she opened the box, and I don't quite tell this in the book because I know that people would know exactly who that person is, so I didn't want to tell this, but I will tell you all, is it had a piece of paper in it, and it was a politician's summary of what they had accomplished while in office. And literally it was about, I attended 200 meetings, I shook this many hands, I did this. And so she said it was a box of nothing. And so when I got it and I looked at it, I go, oh my God, it is a box of nothing, right? Joke, this politician is now one of the presidents there, so please. And they have 3 presidents, and he's one of the 3. And then I said, you know what, team, we're going to take this box of nothing and we're going to fill it with something. And right then and there, that's how the, what's in my box came about.
Wow.
And what we started doing is creating these goals that we wanted to be able to accomplish with Bosnia-Herzegovina. And I was keeping track of them. And so literally this box is, this particular box was on my desk for, all of that time. And instead of, I wanted to keep that box for myself. So the guy that came behind me, I actually gave him a box and it had nothing in it. And I said, now it's your job to fill that box with something.
Wow.
And so if you think about it for your life, your life is really empty unless you fill it with something.
Oh, that's true.
And so if you think about the box, well, if you know what a chit is like it's like a coin to be able to pay yourself, or a piece of paper to be able to pay yourself. And so if you were to fill out your goals and your dreams on a chit and you put it in your box, and when you accomplish it, right, you have to look at it, you have to make sure that you're kind of mapping out how you're going to accomplish it. And then when you accomplish it, you take it out, you've just paid yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you continue to do that regularly, you are going to gradually move forward. And by the time you turn around and look, you would have accumulated this level of wealth that you can't put a dollar figure on.
Yes. Now that's a word, as Joanna said. That's a word. Absolutely. My goodness. My goodness. Ladies, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to ask another question. Where on earth do you find the time? How do you do all of this?
I constantly am working on something, right? So, I mean, I may not necessarily be in the office working on something. My mind is constantly going, and I allow it to go. So when it's going and it's in that active mode, I allow it to go. I capture, whatever I need to. But I will tell you, I'm kind of in this mode where there's so much that I still want to be able to leave the masses, that, my fear is that I'm not going to be able to get enough done because I have less years ahead of me than I do, I have less years ahead of me now. And so I do panic a little bit because there's so many things that I still want to be able to do. There are groups of folks that I still want to be able to help. And I fear that I'm going to run out of time, right? But I try to continue to work on things. I have, ideas and goals that, if it's like anything else that I've done in my life, I know that they're going to come to fruition. It's just a matter of time because I'm like a dog with a bone. I do not let go. I am like constantly going, going, going. And if it is something that I am dead set on, I am going to make it happen some way, somehow. I will make it happen.
Another word. That's another word, y'all. If you have something, in your heart, often we downplay those voices that drive that's in you, but it was given to you uniquely. And once you, right, Linda, we are always talking, once you place it in the universe, it will line up. Things will line up in your favor. But what's going to come in front of you, which we always talk about, is the fear and the doubt and the second guessing and all of those things. But she, Linda's a living testimony, and everyone on this call, we all are really strong testimonies of the fact that if you place something out there, don't back down, don't be afraid, but that you can accomplish it as long as you, once you put your mind to it. Okay. Do we have questions in the chat box? Okay. Okay, none so far. That's good stuff. Well, we will keep going. I know it's just so fascinating. One of the things that we often talk about, Linda, is, a lot of people are trying to figure out, how do you transfer and go from one career to the next career? You were in nonprofit, you were in for-profit, you ran the military, you did this, you've done so many different things. And you and I often talk about this. Similarly, I had been in nonprofit, I'm in for-profit, have my own businesses and what have you. And we share the fact, and I think that this is something that would be helpful for folks on the call, about skills and transferable skills. Can you talk to the group a little bit about how you were able to shift and move throughout those various careers, no matter what the career was?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? The transferable skills, and we preach this to our military folks all the time, and they still struggle with it, is how do you translate what you've done into something that you could actually replicate that? So let's think from a sales perspective, right? Or if you're creating a product, you want to be able to look at your personal kit, right? What are you building? What are the skills that you're building in your kit that you can not only replicate, so you take them, you lift and shift, and you take those, you modify them. Now you're learning something else because the environment is different. So there are things that are common, but you may have to slightly tweak. So now you've got more added to that kit. Now you're going to replicate it and take it to another place. That is all about scaling. And so you need to be thinking about your skill set. How do you scale? Think about what you're good at. How does it apply to that next environment? How do you then add to it and start scaling? And if you think in that mode, then the possibilities are endless. You can walk into any organization and apply your skills, But the most important thing is you have to be able to tell them is here's why they need to choose you. Here's how I can solve your problem. And if you start from here's how I can solve your problem, that is automatically going to get their ears perking up, right? Instead of walking in and saying, how can you help me? So now I'm somewhat in a position where I'm not necessarily saying, hey, how can you help me? I am actually saying to other organizations, well, why do you want me to join you? Because I do have to be now a little bit protective of the brand, because everybody, right, is trying to put me in their toolkit, and really in their toolkit for them. So you got to be careful of that.
That's
especially
right.
when it's a lot of guys.
Yeah. So you have that advantage of being with a lot of guys and hearing, their perspective and how they come into a room and how they show up with the confidence, even though they probably only have 2 ounces of experience to us. Really, I think that's really a fantastic perspective.
Yeah, they'll try to put you in your pocket, put you in their pocket so they can pull you out and they have that ACE card, but they're not willing to put you in front of.
You peeped that, huh? She peeped that. Okay, Rebecca has a question. How did you acquire such a strong drive? Who nurtured that trait when you were young? Great question.
Wow.
Grandma.
So, my grandparents raised me for the first 9 years of my life. And when I think about all the women that were in my family, in and around me during that time, they all worked. They all raised their families because we had to, right? I mean, there was no other option. You had to work in order to be able to take care of your families. And, I grew up where, there's 2 people working in the household. No one was, able to stay home. But my grandmother was an amazing lady, like so amazing. She was the one that kept the family unit together. She raised 14 kids plus me. Those were her kids, by the way. So she had 17, 3 died at birth. And we lived in a 4-room house. Same story as many others, but that was the house she was born in. So if that tells you anything, it didn't have running water. So, I mean, just a simple chore of, feeding your family. Not everybody could eat around the table at the same time because the table wasn't big enough. In the summertime, we'd eat outside. Or doing laundry where, you would have to go down to the spring and get water. You'd have to heat the water in order to just do laundry. I mean, it was just a huge task. And she worked cleaning other people's houses and raising other people's kids. And this lady never complained. And, when she had me for, those 9 years, I was constantly with my grandparents. Like they didn't leave me behind. Like I was always with them. And I think it was being around older people. They intrigued me, right? I like to spend time, with older people, but it was watching her strength. And even when, she got cancer and, she got it the first time and she beat it. And then she got it the second time. Just a strong lady. I mean, she still never complained. And I started looking at that. I mean, I wish I would have asked more questions when I was with her. I wish I would have had the fortitude to ask her, what was it like growing up where, you didn't know your dad and your mom was, part German. I mean, how did you come about, the property? And I hear some of the stories now, but, she had 26 acres. That's just unheard of. I mean, if you think of when she was born, that's just unheard of. And she had my dad in 1940. So come on, that's like, it's a little unheard of. So when I think about that, I can't help but to just have this strong sense of, what a woman can be, because I've seen it all through my family and even my mom. And, my mom and I didn't get along and we can't live together. So I'm just going to tell you that straight out, we can't live together. And my mom is a very special and unique lady. But she is hell. Like if you think you're going to cross her and not have hell to pay for it, You know, she worked construction, you know, she was nursing. I mean, she did anything. She did anything she wanted to do. And so it's having strong women around me that, you know, there was, you could not fail. Like failure was not an option, even though I had challenges and, you know, was homeless and all of that. Failure was just not an option.
You'll have to get her first book. It's pretty powerful, and to see now that you stand and just, it's amazing. It makes me a little teary-eyed, you know, first woman, first African-American woman doing all this amazing stuff. Okay. Another question Anissa has, if you have children, which she does, one happens to be named Tara, by the way, of all of the advice given to them, what is something you do not want them to forget?
Well, so the one thing that, you know, I really stress to my daughters. So I have two daughters. One is 37. She's going to be 38 here in a couple of weeks. And I have one that's 27. I don't want them to ever forget that they're loved. I also don't want them to forget that family is important. That doesn't mean that, you know, you got to be with family every single moment, but that family unit is important. And, you know, the key thing is that they can do anything they set their minds to. There is nothing that they can't do if they desire, if they want it enough, they can accomplish it. And so when I think of, you know, one is a police officer, she's a sergeant on the police force. And then I got you know, she works in Central Investigative Division. So very male dominated, right? And she's really good at what she does. And then I have, you know, the other one that is in school for medical school. And, you know, she took that journey. She moved all the way to Seattle, Washington, which I just still am kind of like, you know, reeling on that one. But it was the first time that she had ever been away from home. And so she's now going to medical school in this environment, and it is really tough. And so, you know, I keep reminding her that if it's worth having, it's not going to be easy. But when you're done, look at what you're going to have, right? And so trying to get her through that process in this climate is really tough.
Yeah.
Especially when she's clear across there and doesn't have any family. So, yeah.
Yes, something tells me that she's got a little something inside of her that's going to help her get there.
She's trying. She is trying, right? So and I mean, you know, a lot of it is all about choices. And that's the other thing too, is they have to make their own choices. I can't make a choice for them and say, this is how you need to accomplish it. I can advise them, but I can't make the choice for them. And you have to know as a parent, when is the time that you step back, and then when's the time that you need to be there to catch them when, you know, they need that support.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow, this has been absolutely fantastic. I did want to share that we did put the link to Linda's book inside of the chat. And after, you know, these series are over, we have 2 more in the self-love series. We're going to do another series, give it a few weeks break, and we'll do another series on relationships. But one of the things that we found from these series is that people want more. They want to delve a bit deeper. And Linda has agreed to do a mastermind class. It will be a session that it will, you know, will offer be paid sessions, not just for her, but just for anyone that we've done this with, people that are in these professions, and we have small groups for those. So you'll be getting information about that. So if you all look in the chat, make sure that you have signed up on our contact list, as well as you have subscribed to our YouTube channel, because we'll be posted. Well, the first session is already posted on our YouTube channel. We'll be posting other sessions as well. So I just wanted to, we do have a song that we're going to close out with that I really hope you all stay for and listen to, but I do like to stay on time. I just want to thank you, Linda, for your time, for your service, for your commitment, your passion. If everyone, we can just give her love, show her love in some way. Thank you so much for everything that you do Perhaps you can come back on the show and talk to us at some point a little bit more. But again, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Okay, ladies. All right, ladies. So I am going to play the song for you. You won't hear from me again, except maybe to say goodbye. But this is a song that I thought would be appropriate. I hope you can hear it okay. It's by India Ari. I Am Light. And again, you will get information via email about our next session, which is actually called, the next session is actually called Showing Up for Yourself, and that's next Thursday. And then Vernon is going to join us back in 2 weeks to wrap up the session with Strength for the Journey. So with that, if you can let this song minister to you a little bit. It's I Am Light by India Ari. Look it up on YouTube. It's a pretty fantastic song. But again, thank you, ladies. It is 9 o'clock. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.